Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. Welcome on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana, as well as joining around the world. We have a lot to talk to you about today. A lot going on. Of course, Trump and Elon Musk had their big X Spaces last night, which I did carry live on different platforms, including X. I went through and basically while they were talking, I just kind of pulled up relevant information, and we, watched the bullet, come through, and Trump talked about all that stuff. Pretty interesting, really. A very lucid conversation between two men, very smart guys. 2 hours. It garnered so far 21 million listeners, and I put plus in the title because that's not counting people like me that were live streaming it. A lot of people were unable to get on the space. The space started at least 30 minutes late, maybe 45 minutes late. Massive denial of service attack reportedly, and that's what caused that delay. And so I think on the space, while it was live, there was about 1 million people that were listening live, 1.3, I think, at the high point. And then just as I scrolled over there this morning, over 21 million had listened. And then, of course, everything else. So that was huge. The biggest thing really that I pulled out of that is that, these guys are like, they're head and shoulders over most people. I get on and I talk on TV every day. So for me, of course, it's a bit different. But for most people to get on and talk for 2 hours, whatever comes, whatever. I don't think these two guys, it didn't sound like they really had much of an agenda. Maybe they had some things that they wanted to cover that they talked about, or maybe it was completely unscripted. I'm not sure, but it certainly appeared to be unscripted. There were a lot of things I think that were left out that probably if they had scripted it, they would have made sure that they had. Who knows? There was no mention whatsoever of crypto, which I don't think is the biggest deal, but it may be indicative of what's going to happen when he gets in. You never know. He's a busy guy. Last time when he got in, of course, he wasn't a crypto advocate to begin with before. I think at this point he understands a lot more of what's going on there with the central bank and all that stuff. So we'll see how that all shakes out. And even if he's able to get in, I'll tell you what, I'm with family this week, and it is just absolutely amazing to me that what the news is doing. I don't watch CNN or Fox News or MSNBC. MSNBC is like laughable. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe people listen to it. They all kind of are. Just complete. They shouldn't call those things news. That's not news. It is what it is. It's like the Democrat campaign. Everything is bad about Trump and good. Good is the other side. Trump bad. Everything. And you have people that have guests on there, and these guests, they did all kinds of, they got the Obama era guys who did all kinds of illegal stuff and didn't show up for subpoenas and, all the stuff that they claimed that Trump's guys did. But my point is that for the average person who's watching this stuff, which is average people, 21 million people tuned in, and it's going to get a lot more viewership, 21 million plus as at the time I looked to the space, and it's going to get a lot more. But 21 million is not, that was one space, and they turn on their TV and it's on and on and on and on and on. And I'll tell you what, man, that's something else. It is something else. And it's like Trump bad. And, I have family, and I'm a married guy, and all these types of things, and you don't want to alienate your own family, so you just kind of, if they want to talk about it, you talk about it. But people have different views, and that's part of what makes everybody, right? So anyway, that's pretty interesting though, watching that, and that is pretty interesting to watch all that. I mean, people really don't like him. Like, they really don't like him. All they talk about is getting arrested and felon and all this stuff. So that's something else. It's going to be pretty interesting. I'll tell you what, if and when he does win, and really it's if, because we still have magic voting machines, the magic electronic voting machines, and the mail-in ballots. We didn't do anything about that. Okay, we got the Virginia governor with the executive order. But again, these things, I feel like, all the poll watchers, but I still feel like these things are reactionary. So we'll see. So X has extended the invite to Kamala. So she is invited on X Spaces. I'd be surprised if she does it, and surprised if she doesn't, I guess. I'm not sure how that would go. Yeah, we'll see. The Houthis blockade in the Red Sea continues. They've targeted another ship. The U.S. has rushed military armaments to the Middle East, and also there's murmur that there is no military solution for this blockade in the Red Sea. So the Houthis, this little group there in Yemen, they have completely really blocked the Red Sea for transit of goods and services going to Israel's ports, and until they stop the genocide in Gaza. So that's ongoing, and they're continuing that. Putin has ended all peace talks. That's not going well. It's not going well. We'll see. The markets right now they're poised to run. I think one way or the other, of course, these PPI numbers are gonna come out, and we'll see. Let me just, as I'm talking here, and we'll pull out my Matt in a minute. I have some guests with us later in the show. I have rum. Dollar rum, and these guys are going to be this is a really cool game. It's the R Land game. R Land. It's kind of a play on Pirates of the Caribbean. Fun crypto game, blockchain game. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But yeah, just as I'm looking over here, it does look like let's see. Let me just look at the futures here. Dow futures had moved up slightly, but they've now moved down again. They were up about 100 points now. They're just really treading water. Gold, silver, both slightly down. Unemployment numbers came out of the UK as well. Strong. Unemployment has moved down. So all these numbers, I think, and I do think we're going to have PPI numbers that are soft, and that's going to push risk assets up further confirming that we're going to get an interest rate cut. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure. I know Matt will have some to say on that as well, and that should push us higher and be good for risk assets, Bitcoin, gold, stocks, everything like that. US dollar should move down. DXY. Yeah, the markets are waiting for the numbers. They're waiting for the numbers. That's what happens. So those PP numbers, and that's the consumer price index numbers, and that is the Fed's. They like using these numbers for their data. It's one of their preferred producer price index. That's what we're looking for today, and so everybody's waiting. What happens when you have numbers like this? If you're in any leverage position, I always tell people, we didn't talk about it much yesterday. If you're in some leverage positions, be very careful. You may want to exit the leverage position, because a lot of times, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down, you're going to have a wick down and you're going to have a wick up. I mean, like, boom, liquidate everybody. Boom, liquidate everybody. You know, boom, 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 like a wrecking ball. And then it flies up. So that's another reason why the markets will be tepid before we do numbers like this, because a lot of people like myself don't like to sit in the market when we're going to have something like this. So we shall see. Oil has ticked back up right around $80. Actually, as we've been doing the show, oil ticks back up above $80 a barrel. It was pretty below, actually, for the last week or two. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange is up about 1/3%. Most of the Asian markets up slightly heading in here. Yeah. Interesting numbers. What did you guys think of the Trump interview? I thought it was, you know, the guy is, you know, what is he, like 78 years old? I mean, it's pretty interesting. He gets on, they had a very lucid conversation. Yeah. Anyway, let's bring on the great Matt Dixon. Sir Matt.
Morning, Bruce. Morning,
good
everyone.
Morning. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just heard you talking about PPI.
Yes.
Yeah, PPI is actually it's actually been probably the most accurate measure of inflation. Probably one we should be watching. Obviously, it's out today. What are we now? Just looking at the time. Only a couple of hours away, something like that. About 2 hours away.
6:22 in the East Coast.
Yeah. A couple of hours away from release of that. It's actually PCE, which is personal consumption expenditures, which is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. So PCE is the Fed's preferred measure. CPI is obviously headline inflation. And then we've got PPI, which is producer price inflation. So they're all different, but actually PPI is most probably the best measure. Well, just recently, it appears to be the best measure. We'll have a quick look. In fact, I'll jump in and share my screen. We'll have a quick look at what the expectations are for PPI.
That's great. And I do have, you probably heard as you were off screen, I do have a guest coming for the last segment as well.
Great. I'll keep it short and sweet. So if I can, let's just see where we are. Sharing screen there. So
yes.
I think it's good that we probably revisit Bitcoin again because
look at this. Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, it is unbelievable. Look at that buying power of the Bitcoin purchasing power of a house. 6 Bitcoins to get yourself. I mean, that doesn't buy much of a house in DC, but that'll buy a nice house in the rest of the country, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think the theme of this show has often been, or a big theme of this show, not the theme, but a large part of the theme of this show has been looking at protecting the value of your assets and using Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a potential way to do that. And this just shows you the average price. I mean, it's the median price, US house price. And you can see since 2016, so what's that? The past 8 years, it's gone from 288,000 to 434,000. Now, it sounds like a massive jump. A lot of that has been to do with inflation. I mean, it clearly is inflation. It's house price inflation, but it's also just inflation anyway. And this is the problem of the massive money printing exercises that have gone on since before 2016. But then we had the massive money printing COVID as well. And all this money printing just means that everything devalues. So everything actually costs more. And that's what we see here with the house. But Bitcoin has just shown itself and proven itself to be a real store of value. So yes, there's a bit of fluctuation, volatility in Bitcoin, but it is actually one of the best stores of value. It's one of the best performing assets that there has been. And it actually looks likely as though it's going to continue. So obviously we've got the amazing Bitcoin ETF, which has soaked up so much Bitcoin. And as we know, there's only ever a theoretical maximum of 21 million Bitcoin will ever be in existence, and actually way less than that because lots have been lost. And now with the ETF, lots are being locked up. But what I heard recently was that they're going to be launching the Bitcoin ETF futures probably before the end of this year. So just a matter of months away now. Now, once that happens, the Bitcoin trade volume will jump, I suspect, by probably more than 10 times. So this could be phenomenal. It will make it a real useful tool. You see, hedge funds, the one thing, what they're doing with hedging, why they're called hedge funds, is they can actually go long and they can go short the market. Now, at the moment, you can't really short Bitcoin. The institutional ETF, you can't short it. But once you have the futures, you'll be able to go long and short. So they'll be able to play both sides of the market. So this really opens the floodgates then for hedge funds to really actively trade Bitcoin. So
interesting. I remember when really the futures market opened robustly. Everyone thought it was going to go to the moon, and it had a kind of a different effect because they could play both sides of the market, and you had massive shorts being played on the futures market.
Yeah, but it does actually massively increase trade volume, which is a good thing. And I do think, bearing in mind there's only this limited supply of Bitcoin, and if you're shorting, the trade volume is really, really important to make it a real institutional asset. If there isn't the volume to move large volumes of this asset around, it's never going to get full institutional adoption. So I think futures is a really important piece of the jigsaw to put into place. So it will boost volumes by more than 10%. And I remember looking at, exchanges, they used to just offer spot without futures. And now virtually all the exchanges are moving to futures because they need that trade volume to survive, because they survive on trade volume. Their commissions and everything are based on trade volume. So if you want an industry to grow, a fund management trading industry to grow around an asset, you do need to have the futures. And that's, as I say, what happened with the exchanges. Then Binance, for example, now offer futures. Bybit, BitGet, all of them offer futures because spot there just isn't enough volume. And even though maybe you don't need leverage, but actually as Bitcoin becomes more and more of an institutional asset and the volatility drops more and more, maybe people will want the opportunity for a bit more leverage, and certainly the opportunity to go short. So if you're a trader, you like to trade both sides of the market, and if the market's going down, you like to be able to go short. And it actually probably brings out a more healthy market, in fact, where you're not just going long. You can actually go both sides, and it's probably a bit more realistic and sensible. So we'll have a look at the Bitcoin chart here. This is actually, I've not changed the labeling since yesterday, but I will just add the additional little wave 1 here just to show you where I've measured to, and the wave 2 just to show you what I've done here. So wave 2 was down here. So what's interesting here is from that low we had, which was the recent sell-off to do with the unwinding of the Japanese yen carry trade, and also the bad employment figures. Just mentioning employment, by the way, you talked about UK employment or unemployment. Yeah. The unemployment has dropped to much lower than expected, 4.2%, I think it is now, which for the UK is a very, very low figure. And bear in mind, they just dropped interest rates and unemployment has actually come down a lot. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, the FTSE, the FT100, has not, is basically down a little bit this morning. So it's strange. You get good news out and the FT comes down a bit. And that probably, the reason for that probably is that with this lowering of unemployment, the likelihood of further reductions in interest rates are probably reduced. And that means
because that's like the tricky thing, right? And nobody likes to get their head around is that actually unemployment numbers, they want unemployment high, so people are spending less money, which makes inflation go down.
Yeah, so it's all very much counterintuitive. It's but anyway, that's UK. So the UK obviously have problems because they still have slightly elevated inflation, like America, I guess. But America's actually got unemployment ticking up at the moment, though, and that's why America will be dropping rates in September, which is probably good for risk assets. and those PPI numbers today. In fact, I'll just jump onto PPI before we head into the charts. I think PPI was here. Quite interesting. We can see actually this is probably the reason why America didn't drop rates earlier, because we saw PPI since last December. So for the past 6 months or so, PPI has actually been increasing, elevating. So this is producer price inflation. So the producer price index, its inflation basically shows increasing dramatically. But we are looking now for reduction. So we can see every measure, PPI month on month, the core PPI and the core PPI annually, year on year, all dropping off quite substantially. So that will be a turnaround from what we've seen this past 6 months rising of PPI, which, as I say, is why the Fed have not been able to drop rates. But if they're watching PPI, and as I said, it's probably been the best measure of inflation recently, if they're watching it and beginning to see it turn around, as I say, they don't want to wait until inflation measures are down at 2%. We're expecting 2.7% here. They don't want to wait until any of these measures are down at the 2%, because they'll be too late to act. Like turning that big ship, they need to act beforehand, in advance, to try to stave off deflation or inflation below 2%, which is not a good thing. They want to maintain about 2% inflation to keep a steady, keep everything steady. So if we see that reduction today, that would augur well for a reduction in interest rates come September. So as I said, looking at Bitcoin here, this is a relatively short-term chart. I'm just looking at the 1 hour chart, but it's quite informative, because as I say, from this low that we had, this sharp sell-off we had, you can see the big move down here. We've actually moved up nicely in 5 waves: wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. Now, we've got a couple of extended waves from this wave 1, but quite interestingly, wave 5 is exactly, precisely to the penny, 2 times wave 1. It's nice to see those. And we often see, or we usually see, within a cycle of 5 waves like this, only 2 of the waves have a relationship, either a Fibonacci relationship or a direct relationship like this. So wave 1 here, wave 5 is exactly 2 times wave 1. And wave 3 is, in fact, 1.382, I think it is. Oh no, wave 3. Actually, wave 3 is almost identical to wave 5. That's quite interesting. So we've got wave 3 is 2 times and wave 5 is 2 times as well. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. So we actually do have 3 waves related here, where wave 1 to here, we've got wave 3 is 2 times and wave 5 is 2 times. So not often you see that, but it's nice. And it's perfectly valid. Wave 4 didn't overlap into the territory of wave 1. So that's perfectly valid. But what's really interesting is, from the wave 5, and 5 waves up make a larger wave A or wave 1. That's always the case. Then from that, we've got a correction. We can see this, the kind of flag waving in the wind. This is what's called a bull flag. So we've got a kind of flagpole here. We've got a bull flag waving in the wind, which would be expected to resolve higher and above this point here. So that's not very high, 62,000, but we should go well above that. Now, if this is an A wave, we'd expect a C wave to be at least 100% of this whole move here, from 49 to 62. So it's 13,000. You know, you'd expect a minimum 13,000 from these levels. That's if it's an ABC. I think almost definitely it's actually more likely to be a wave 1 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 making wave 1. This is a corrective wave 2. And then wave 3 will be 1.618. That's going to take us probably to beyond, or at least challenge the previous all-time high of 74,000 for Bitcoin. So once again, I'm still bullish. I said yesterday I was bullish everything, expecting maybe a little bit of sideways movement for the time being, which is precisely what we're seeing. The market's down a little bit in general, but it's sideways kind of movement, overlapping sideways movement. By overlapping, I mean, for example, this movement up here, you can see up to here, has overlapped this movement down here. So that cannot be a 1, 2, 3, 4, because wave 4 would not be allowed to overlap wave 1. So it's actually just a corrective move. Corrective is against the trend, and that means the trend is higher this is against the trend downwards. So we will resume with the trend soon to go to new highs up here beyond this local high. And as I say, towards the previous all-time high for Bitcoin. So that for me is an extremely encouraging chart. And overall looking looking good.
I mean, the overall consensus is we go up from here. Interest rates are coming down, dollars going down, risk assets are going up. I mean, one way or the other, it feels like even with turmoil and war, it still looks like it's going to go up, even if it's choppy.
Yeah, it's kind of climbing that wall of worry. There is still worry there, but there's nothing actually materialized. And markets
it took a big chunk out of the market. You know what I mean? The worry. You know, we were well above where we are now. It took a big chunk out.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the war worries. I think they're actually not really being priced in at the moment, and they don't price it in until something actually happens, because it's so much. It is very much a black swan. Nobody really knows. But I think this is actually down to the economic drivers that have hit Bitcoin a little bit, and also profit taking. I mean, it's quite interesting when you look at the flows, the ETF flows. GBTC still has massive negative outflows compared to the rest of all the other ETFs. And that's due to profit taking. So people got into GBTC very early, made massive profits on it, and it's just unwinding. And then GBTC fees are very, very high. So people actually are switching out of GBTC and into the cheaper ETFs to store their assets there. So quite interesting to see that, the flows that there are there. So XRP has been quite an interesting one. We had that massive pump higher on that SEC news, which was positive news. We got a really good pump. We can see those green candles there. We appear again to moving correctively to the downside. But as I say, it does look corrective, because once again, this movement up here is overlapping this movement down here. And this movement up here is overlapping this movement down here. So once again, it's corrective, which means we should be heading towards some more upside. And there have been rumors I've heard that XRP will likely be an ETF candidate in the future. If that's the case, then XRP could really fly. So I'm still bullish XRP, especially looking at this still bullish outlook. So again, we just looked here at the overlapping nature of the downward move here. Notice this move up here has not been overlapped by this move down here. So that would be my risk level. If I'm looking to trade this, and I'll just put the line in here. So this is the previous high there. That's that previous high there. So I wouldn't expect this movement down to cross that line there. So if we do move down at all, not saying we will, but if we were to move down lower, the closer we get to this line, for me, the better the risk reward. So I would always put my risk, basically a stop loss, just below this line if I'm trading. So at the moment, if you're trading to the upside, your target would be minimum this level up here, the top level of this movement up after the SEC. So minimum upside target 64 cents, minimum. So, but the downside is potentially below this line here, which is 51 cents. And we're currently 57. So we're pretty much in no man's land. So I don't like the risk reward ratio as it is, because it's almost 1-to-1. I mean, it's slightly in your favor, but not enough in your favor. So I wouldn't be interested in taking a new position on this asset from here. Yes, if I got in down here, fine, I'll hold it, and I'll move my stop loss up to here. I guarantee there's locked in profit here now, and I can let it ride. But I wouldn't enter a new position, because as I say, it's 50-50 on the risk and reward. But if we do approach this dotted line, I would look to go in long with a stop loss just below again. And then you'd have substantial upside if you're closest to the line, substantial upside to take us above 64, but minimal downside. So that's the sort of way that I'd like to trade. So rather than be addicted to trading, thinking I must get into a trade, I actually look at the levels and try to structure my stop losses according to important previous levels of resistance. And that is an important level of resistance there. So let me know when you need to move on, because I know you've got lots of other things on the show, but I'll just touch here Solana is actually almost an identical chart to Bitcoin here. So Solana, we have the same thing. Basically, we had bullish divergence here, which was telling you to move higher, but it moved higher in the form of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, it was actually just the third wave that was extended, not the fifth wave necessarily. But even so, it's a very nice, clean impulse higher. And then the movement down is an ABC correction down. It may or may not be complete. This could be in the form of an ABC. We could even drop a bit lower. In fact, a 1.618 would potentially take us to this level, 138 on Solana. So there's potential to go lower, or it could be complete here. So again, once you got around here, my trade would have been to go long here with a stop loss just below here, with a target above the previous local high here. And in fact, the target is much higher than that, in fact, overall. So Solana is actually looking a better, slightly better bet, for example, than XRP at the moment. From a risk reward perspective, you can judge it in many different ways, but just from risk reward alone, I really like Solana here. And it is very clear, 5 waves up, 3 waves back. Even if the 3 waves back isn't quite complete, it's 5 waves up, 3 back. So we now expect there to be 5 waves to the upside to take us substantially higher. So I'm really bullish Solana as well. You did mention oil. Actually, there's been a bit of a disparity here. It's not often the case, but with gold and oil, gold's just a little bit of a turn down, but and oil has actually moved up a little bit. So I think oil is probably those geopolitical tensions you're talking about is what's actually elevating oil, particularly with the Houthis. There's a lot of oil still flows through the Red Sea, and if the Houthis are causing problems, then that's why we're seeing there is a bit of, obviously, is being priced in a little bit to the oil price. The other one I just want to probably finalize on, running through them quickly, is not DXY. I mean, we'll just look at DXY. It looks as though it's going to go higher, but actually, what I really want to look at is the SPX. We still have not breached that dotted line, and as I've said on previous shows, that's really, really important, because we potentially, from the all-time high here on the S&P 500, we have an A wave down. It's 1 or A, 2 or B up, and then 3 or C down. Now, if it's 1, 2, 3, this is potentially wave 4, and we could push down further in a wave 5. But if it's A, B, C, then we'll push up above this line. Once we're above this dotted line, we can then be confident that it is ABC, because it can no longer be 1, 2, 3, because a wave 4 cannot overlap wave 1. So if we get above that dotted line, I then have great confidence, and then I will be looking, that will be a signal to me to start looking to jump into assets, and I'll start doing deeper DD on assets, usually assets for me that are thrown up by the EVE. So that's the EVE rating system for crypto assets. I'll look for the ones on the watch list that have been upgraded. I'll then do deeper DD, but this will be an overall sort of universal signal to me that if we see a move above that line, I'll then seriously be looking at longs in the market. And as I say, at the moment, we're in a bit of no man's land on some of the assets. So right now, I wouldn't be taking new positions. I'd certainly be holding on to old positions if I'm long with protection, but I wouldn't be entering new positions. But this will be a signal to me to start looking for longs in the market, that basically the market is then confirmed that this is just an ABC correction, and we should get impulsive movement to the upside soon. So I think PPI will be the one to watch this afternoon, now only less than 2 hours away. So let's watch for that, and maybe that'll give us the boost that we need. PPI will definitely, if we get weak PPI, should give us a boost to the S&P 500, may give us the clarity that we need then to start looking at jumping in to.
And we just had a request for gold. I know we touched on it briefly, but
yeah, probably best if I look at long-term gold. I mean, we're actually still within this wedge pattern channel. We can see it we can see that bounded here by the dotted lines. So whilst we're within this channel, we're actually again near to the top of the channel. I'm very confident that gold will reach new all-time highs. I'm extremely confident of that. Probably we're on too short a time frame there. I'll go to the 4 hour, probably a bit cleaner. So you can see I've actually got a wave 3 labeled up here. So I think we're quite close to reaching that. But that wave 3, although it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential ending diagonal for this larger wave 3 in red, that would then mean we get a pullback in wave 4, but that would then be followed by a further wave 5 in red to the upside. So we would then expect after a pullback, we would then expect a further push to new all-time highs again. So expecting at least 2 new all-time highs here. One when we reach wave 3 in red, and another one when we reach wave 5 in red. And then we need to look at the fractals to see if there's even a bigger time scale for even higher highs. But for the time being, just on this time scale, I can see 2 higher highs ahead. So 2 new all-time highs ahead for gold. But right now we are bounded within this kind of this channel, this dotted line channel, which is kind of what they sometimes call a megaphone or an expanding diagonal. Look, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like possibly an ending diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for ending diagonal. And if that's the case, we would then expect a bit of a pullback. So wave 5, as I say, would take us to a new all-time high for gold. Then we get a bit of a pullback, and then we should then push again to another all-time high above that 3 to wave 5. And as I say, we'd then look at a longer time frame to see what direction from there. So yeah, gold's looking bullish. If gold is bullish, that does mean that inflation is probably going to be subsiding a little bit, I reckon. Means there's more money in the system, more money will flow into gold and pump the price a bit more. So bullish gold, bullish generally across the board with most of the assets. And I think PPI may show us the way today. So that's about it for today. I'll let you move on. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Matt. It is always a pleasure, my friend. Great market report. We were all watching to see. Let's move up. Let's go.
Let's go for it. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Catch you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye. So one of the fun things we get to do, of course, in the show is talk about a lot of these new crypto assets, these new assets class. And one of the fun things is as well, these games. Gaming is such an important part of the ecosystem. You have they can bring in lots of different users, and as well young. It's always about you want all types of different people, of course, participating. But the future, what they always talk about, right, is the future is the kids. The kids are the future. So one of those that we have we've been talking about here lately and checking out is a fun game, or it's called Pirates of Our Land. Pirates of Our Land, and I'm going to I'll pull it up here as I talk about it. It's a fun game, Pirates of Our Land. And I have a guest with me here as well who is going to talk about it. Let me just queue up my my post here. Pirates of Our Land. All right, let me go ahead and bring him on. I have with me here Greg. Hello, Greg. How are you?
Guys? I'm just fine. Strong and early, just like my coffee.
That's awesome. Where are you joining from?
I'm joining you from Warsaw, from Poland, so in the capital city.
Oh, beautiful. I'll tell you what, so I was headed out there, I think last year or year before, and I got stuck kind of in, I didn't get stuck really, but I stopped in Lisbon and I got stuck, quote unquote, with some different conferences. And then everybody had just a blast in Warsaw. And I was so upset that I missed it. A beautiful place. I saw some of the pictures. It was one of the places I haven't been yet, but a wonderful, wonderful city.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you liked it. I haven't been to the States, but I had ventured, far and out, skipped about 14 different countries around the globe. So yeah, I also have some very fond memories outside of Poland itself.
Awesome. So really fun game that you guys have here. Recently, the token has recently launched in the last month or so, right? The game itself, you guys have been working at it for quite a while. Tell us more about Pirates of Ireland. Hide the rum.
Right. Well, I'm very happy to engage in providing you the information here. So I myself am partnerships manager with Pirates, and it's been so for over 3 to 4 months. I am closely acquainted with the game designer for the game. We know each other for about 15 years. We're a small studio hailing from Poland. We have indie game developers. We have 2 young guys who had finished the university degrees and are fully employed, fully fledged developers for metaverses and in other companies, and they are doing it for their own success, for their own ambition. We also have Chief Technical Officer Dominic, who is coding the smart contract. So he's introducing the smart contract game logic into the game, and it's something new that we are doing because we are making a strategy. So what is happening is when you have a smart contract encoded, and when you are burning the assets, for example, on Matic, on which we are based on Polygon, then the contract is basically being encoded. So it has certain properties, certain values to basically recode itself. So This is what we are doing. And one of the 2 games in this ecosystem that we are making is the economy strategy money management game, which is already running on browser. We have the on-chain resources farming, which was just introduced early last month. And it took us over 2 years and 10 months to achieve this state of the game. We also have the second part of the gaming ecosystem, which is the multiplayer online battle arena. And this is for the younger audiences. It utilizes some inherent properties in the game currency game loop, so to call it, so that when you have, for example, the potential to invest and you don't have as much time, you may go into the strategy theme in order to play on iOS or Android in the future, currently on browser based. And if you have more time to achieve, to compete against others, to be visible, to be in the ladder, to use the launcher, and you would go with this full-fledged first-person shooter, which we have. We have 3 islands, and there are pirates battling it out. We have 2 weapons right now. We have the blunderbuss, we have the pistol, we have the traps, we have the interactable environment. This is on Unity 2021, but it's just on this engine because we have limited resources for the devs. As I mentioned, we're a small team. So we have, basically 3 main devs. We have about 2 side devs. We have the game designer. There's me as partnership manager. There's the community managers and the tournament managers, and that's the whole company, right?
Nice. So it's these types of things, they're so fun, right? And so you have the whole token economy as well. And Pirates of the Caribbean is just, this is like it's one of my favorite movies of all time, or series, I guess, right? It's a series. In my younger days, I love it. The kids love it. It's a lot of fun. So the token economy started, that always is tricky, right? And you guys have been working at this for so long. It takes years to put these types of things together. And it's on Polygon, so it's cheap to trade, it's easy to hold, it's all these types of things. How has that helped? Has it helped with the adding of users? Has it helped with the bringing on user bases to play the game? Tell me more about that.
Right. Well, the concept for Pirates, it originated, as I stated, around 3 years ago. And it was with Dominic, who is a full-fledged developer. He has over 25 years of experience. And he met up with this guy that they studied together on in university. And they went kind of different ways, because Dominic went contractual and Marcin, he went towards game development. They said, look, well, while we're here, why don't we set up, see and revert, like what's happening with our experiences, and maybe let's try making a game for ourselves. And they came up with a name for Anfata. This is for a NFT game, Anfata Games Studio. And their original inspiration was the Sid Meier's Pirates on Commodore 64. Now, this game, it's based on hexes. It's a strategy, and you could battle it out on ships. You had very simple graphics. This was the era even before you had any animations as we have today, that we know today, that are visible on YouTube. So any kind of mixing and any kind of content creation, back then this content creation was only on consoles. So this was the inspiration for Pirates, and ever since that time, the project has been steadily. It was steadily running, and it has also been evolving because there had been some key decisions, and we had to adapt and overcome basically certain aspects for the project to be running. I mean, it's been over 3 years in the space, and I'm sure that there are other projects which are there longer, right? But 3 years is a long time in crypto for a project to
it's
be
like
there.
forever in crypto. I mean, it's like old man status. But that's putting together games. I know I've worked with game developers. I had a close partner that was in this business. It takes years.
It does. It does take years, and it does take a passion. I will let you in on a personal story. I had a friend from the street on which I grew up, and we used to collect Pokemon cards. We used to collect Magic the Gathering cards. We used to play it out on those logic games, Monopoly. We also had the PCs, right? And we were running all those different kinds of games. And if we couldn't buy a game from a newspaper, then we were going out and checking whether we can get it somewhere else. This was even before the internet was running. And this guy, he actually went this way, and he went with CD Projekt, and he became a game producer. And right now he's based in Germany in an indie games dev studio, and we keep in touch from now and then. So it's kind of those life decisions. For some people it's just everything that there is to it. And I can tell you that myself, I'm also very engaged in gaming as it is, interacting with other players. This competitive spirit, I mean, it drives me, and I can see advantages to it, also in my professional career, now that I have grown up, but I was playing since I was a little kid, so it's a great thing.
So I'm on the website here, Arland, ARRLAND.
Correct.
So check around these Arland NFT collectibles. How do people get involved? How do they get started and play? Right. So what is happening is the game is based around the non-fungible tokens, and in order to get started, you would need a battle pass, and you would need to register an account. And how do you do that? I mean, what is account register? What it means to register an account on the blockchain, right? I mean, essentially, it means getting a wallet, right? Yes. And a lot of people aren't going to have one. So these are the NFTs that you would. So let's go ahead and walk through it.
Right. So we have the pirates.
Yeah.
So for example, we have the Genesis pirates, and then we have the normal pirates. We have the citizens, we have the islands, and we have the ships. And this is for the strategy part. And of course, it's taking time to develop. But some portion of the game is already there. The islands are established, and on-chain resources is established with the Genesis pirates as it is right now.
All right, awesome. Does this have sound? I'm going to mute it if it does. Well, I'll just mute it anyway. So this is behind the scenes revolutionizing marine environment physics.
Correct.
Ireland. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is from the perspective of one of our two main developers, and he is basically the creator of this engine within Unity 2021. So if you have a game design toolkit, and you're going to do marine physics, then you obviously need to know something about physics and mathematics in order to establish those kind of key points, in order, for example, to improve the shaders on the water, which had also been done. And those kind of interactions, they are there, they are being coded in real time on Unity 2021. So right now, this is what one of our two main game developers is working on. If you go to the list of the people involved in the project, you will be able to see his picture. And I had the chance to actually meet him myself on several occasions already. So I can tell you he's a great guy, very passionate.
That's awesome. Well, that was what when I was talking to you guys over the last couple of days. You guys have a cool team, and that's why I was like, why don't have someone come on and talk. So here's the Arland crew. Here we have the game director. We have the architect. I mean, this is quite an extensive team as well. So talk to me about, did you guys do a raise? How did you get the funding to put something there like this? I mean, this is not cheap.
Right. I mean, we had the tokenomics established very early in the project. Okay, and some of it went it were private sales, and just recently we got listed on DEX about 4 months ago. So. Yep. So we got listed on Mexi. So this is where you could purchase our token, the RAM token. And before this happened, we actually had a chance to meet with the listing manager in Dubai on scope of the event. And there were also 3 other parties. So we are considering all of those. If we had limitless resources, then we could consider listing even on Binance, with the potential of our project and the specifics of it, right? But money is always a factor, right? And the strength lies in the community, because the project has to do even without the investors putting in the money through, right? It's good if you have an entertainment company and if you're running an indie game studio, right? But essentially, you should be looking for something that is organic, that is the people willing to play your game, to try the new things, to put in the work and work alongside you, right? And this is the thing about the game being made around blockchain, is that this community feedback, it gets across pretty quickly, and you can basically see in real time the money that is being contributed and is running in between the community and the game developer. So if you do not ship out constant updates about the project, if you do not show that you are improving, if you do not show your work, then your project is going to get extinguished pretty quickly. I mean, this is the basic difference. So for the people not not acquainted with the subject, the easiest comparison I can make is if you had, for example, Kickstarter. It's a pretty good portal, for crowdfunding, and not only games. A lot of different projects. You could crowdfund, planting trees in Africa or somewhere else, right? And the fact is that in blockchain, it's almost like a Kickstarter, because the moment that you have the tokenomics established, you can actually pinpoint where do you want the money to be going. Do you want the 10% to be going to the developers? Do you want 20%? Do you want 30%? Do you want 40%? Do you want 50% maybe to the board of directors, as it is at Ubisoft and those bigger entities, right? So this is the questions that we're asking. It's changing, this shift. It's pulling really hard, and you will be able to see it. So right now, it's a good time to enter into all those different ways of games development, games funding, because the shift is there. And I think that, a lot of people in this space, they can already see those kind of changes going, even with those economic thumps that had been there, recently.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool. So talk to me about the like what you've accomplished so far, and then what you're going to accomplish, the roadmap. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a minute. Talk to me about
Right,
the roadmap. What can we expect over the next 6 months to 1 year?
Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy to talk about it. And the establishment of roadmap is constantly revised. We are revising it 1 to 2 quarters, every 1 to 2 quarters, to see if we can make any improvements and to pivot around certain points or to pace the project as is needed. As you know, in crypto, there are bull runs, there are bear runs, right? And we had been through both. So we had been securing funding over those 3 years.
The bear market.
Correct. And we were able to do so. So this says something about the project. I mean, first, it's about a niche that you would like to go through with. But the second part of it is the part of innovating and actually doing something for yourself, claiming your own ambitions. And I think that this is a big part of our project here. It's the people, the community, they would like to see those qualities of blockchain be introduced into video games for certain reasons. And it's not only speculative reasons. I can tell you, as a longtime gamer, I can tell you that it's not only for the speculative reasons.
Yep. So talk to me a bit about, I know you guys have something that you just started here, right? Or it looked like a day or two ago, you're having a contest and there's $1,000 up for grabs. Talk to me about that.
Correct. So when it comes to our ecosystem, even before we had a workable on-chain resources farming established for this browser-based economy strategy money management game, we had to reward our community for the input that they make, for the word that they share to other people, right? And how do you do that? Do you get to each person? Do you go, door to door like a seller, right? Or do you trust someone else to do the job for you and do it better? And as head of partnerships here at Ireland, I can tell you that we had based our decisions on the input of others who had been successful in the space. And when it comes to Ireland, we are using some partners. They are in partnership with us. Namely, one of them is Interact, which is a community reward program platform. And the second one is called Zealy, which is Zealy. It's also a part of a reward program platform. And the way that this works is that when you commit to an action within the browser, when you have your account established, a wallet, and it's coupled with the browser, that's the so-called Web3, then this extension can read when you are, for example, posting about our project, or when you are participating in a space, or when you are accessing a specific smart contract, or when you are adding, for example, liquidity into the game pool. So it's recording that. And this competition is run amongst the people that contribute liquidity to our project through the means that are established in the game ecosystem. So amongst the people that decide to add liquidity to the pool, we will select a random person who will be able to receive the reward. And the guidelines are established if you go to Interact link, which is visible there. And we also had this kind of, I can see you're showing the grand tournament there. We had the tournament, so cool. We had to battle it out.
$100,000 prize pool.
The $100,000 prize pool is incoming. Is the incoming grand tournament that will be there. And as an introduction to it, we were also running a competition to battle it out. But there were so many participants that we had to increase, the amount of server, allowance for the people to connect. So I can tell you a story about that. We had to run it quick and code in real time with the guys. The guys were surprised. Our lead
wow. Oh, wow. So, yeah, that's really cool, man. Well, I mean, we've gone well over my planned 10 minutes because obviously I think it's so interesting what you guys are doing here. Gaming is really just the future. So you were spending some time in Dubai. What are your guys' plans? Do you have other? Are you going to be on location in different places over the next, let's say, rest of the year?
Well, we will be looking at the gaming events that will be coming up, and this decision lies with a close friend of mine, Norbert, who will be deciding on where we decide to show up next. For now, we are aiming on securing grants, and the grants are in for the community input and the liquidity of the project, right? So everybody is looking right now at the organic participation of the members in the ecosystems, and right now is the true test, because a year ago Certic started running their audits on projects, and right now visibility is there for all of those Web3 gaming projects, for all other projects, for different tokens, and you can easily check how risky it is to put your money through for specific reasons, into different branches. I'm not talking only about the financial sector. I'm talking about the entertainment sector, maybe about the communication sector, maybe about the sector of getting into the art, NFT art. I mean, recently it came up on CoinGecko that, a lot of those non-fungible tokens for at Decentraland and other places, they went down 95%, because that may be the case with the market reacting. And I am sure that you also saw those kind of announcements. So now it's time to buy. That's the first thing. But the second thing is it's time to reflect, on the future of those instruments, I would call them. And how do they add value to the system, right? Just like art does, just like the entertainment adds value to our lives, and just as the financial, assets that are backed with crypto add certain good positive feedback there.
Well, really cool, man. I can see on the DEX screener is over 2,000 holders at the moment. That sure. Of course that doesn't include MEXC, who's on there, and any other centralized exchanges. But congratulations on the great project. I think it's absolutely awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. What is the easiest as a parting talk? And I see 11,000 people, I think, in the Telegram as well. Growing project. What would do? Last words you would leave people? How do they get involved? How do they find you guys?
How do they find us? Go to Ireland.com and see what the pirates are about. Check out the links that we have. See, it's just as easy as going on Polygon Scan and seeing the token being burned in real time and influencing the game's economy. So this is something that is game breaking. It's a game changer. This is no offline database. All of it is based on smart contracts. All of it is in the cloud. And this is the decision that we have taken. So we're not taking an easy road. It's going to be a bumpy one. And it's a project that is long-term. So, make sure that you go to Ireland.com and check out all the details to find out more about it. And I highly encourage you to do so.
Before I let you go, because you just talked about the burn, and I maybe you mentioned that before, but I didn't pick it up. Talk to me about the burn and how that works.
Right. So you can mine the on-chain resources in our ecosystem. And for example, if you buy 15 RAM, or if you have 20 Matic from Polygon, then you are able to put your pirate to work. And then there is this total amount of RAM, which is about 2 trillion. And when you select it, it's gonna deplete the pool. The RAM token is a deflationary token only. So it's only gonna be ever increasing in value relative to the amount of people that are in the game. And when you go to a Polygon Scan, you can see this RAM being burnt in real time. So you can see the interactions that are there from the users directly. So you can see how many users are participating in acquiring the resources to compete against each other in the strategy field of the game.
Nice.
So that's a great thing. And as I said, it's a new thing. It took us 2 years and 10 months to make it, but it's finally there, and the numbers are showing. So it's really fun. And even just with this one indicator, it's a game changer.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Great segment. We'll probably replay it again a little bit later. But make sure, guys, it's Pirates of Arland, arland.com. That's 2 R's, ARRLAND.com. Thanks, man.
Thank you for having me, Bruce. Take care.
Cheers.
Signing off.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Pirates of Arland, and as I mentioned, I am I've always been a big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. It's one of my favorite, always one of my favorite ones to watch. Of course, the pirate, and then the young guy, and of course they got the pretty girl, and it's fun, right? It's fun, and that's actually crypto, guys. It was always fun. I mean, it is a monetary revolution, right? It's a monetary revolution. I talk about it every day, but it's also fun. It was one of the things that really just captured all of us, or including me, back in the early days, was that it was fun, and that's what tokens like this and games like this mention. So a number of things I like about this one in particular. One is, of course, I wouldn't say it's easy to get users, but people are interested in getting into the token in the game and the NFTs for more reasons than just speculation. And this is like, I mean, look, I've been speculating for over 10 years. Okay. I'm a speculator. I buy and I sell and I do things. So I totally understand that part of it. But in order to bring so many different people to the table that are able to speculate in a really fun way, I think it bodes well for the success of it. So make sure you check it out. Pirates of Arland, ARRLAND, Arland, as I like to say, Arland. So, and that was fun. Maybe we'll have him on again. Before we, so I want to move on. I want to talk a little bit more about President Trump and Elon Musk. This space last night. It was just absolutely phenomenal. If you aren't following my X feed, you should be, okay? But it's Networks Manager, and I basically just, a lot of people were having trouble getting on, including me. I couldn't get on. It started late, and a lot of us couldn't get on. And so once we got to the point where we were able to get on, I started streaming. And I thought, well, this is great. And then while we were streaming, I as well shared different things that we're talking about. So like while he was talking about getting shot, you can see I got the diagram going with him tilting his head just right. I mean, what a moment, huh? And unbelievable, really, how we were almost at this point of, I mean, what would have happened? What would have happened if they did assassinate him that day? I'll tell you what, guys, sad to say in a way, I don't really think much would have happened. And that's why they were willing to do it. I mean, you look when they assassinated JFK, what happened? Nothing happened, right? When they shot Reagan, nothing happened. They made Nixon resign. Nothing happened. Like, we have to figure out a way to break through these chains that have us. You look at what's going on over in the UK, and the UK is basically, I mean, gosh, I don't know if you saw, but they're threatening Elon before they did the interview. And it was interesting because I don't think he was really thinking of, talking about the UK anyway, but they were obviously very worried that he was going to, and that was going to cause more riots or whatnot like this. And it was they just really, I want to say they just kicked it in a way. They just talked, and they didn't get into the race stuff or that deep into the migration stuff. They didn't get into Both of them very smart guys. They didn't get into a lot of the stuff that might have gotten them in trouble. And trouble is a relative term, but we're in a very interesting time, you know. And I was talking about it on the chat because we had that chat going, because of course I was live streaming and we had a chat going on the side. And, you know, like one way or the other, like if, like, I don't know. I mean, what if something happens to, I mean, if something happened right now to Elon Musk, what would that do? I mean, that would have such a chilling effect on free speech. Like right now, you can't really talk about, what the jab, right? You can't talk about, and actually I stream on multiple platforms and we're able to talk about more stuff than we were just because we're able to talk about it on X. But even there, I mean, trust me, I've been through a couple of things with these other platforms. I don't even stream on all of them anymore because it's not worth it, I guess. I mean, I'll just take certain clips and I'll send it over there and publish over there. But, you know, I think my point of this is that as a group, we need to come together, because nobody's going to save us. Like, even if Trump gets in, and I say if because fairness of the election is definitely in question, but you know, if we lose Elon, if we lose Trump, if we lose Putin, if we lose these people that, and maybe Putin doesn't belong in there with Elon and Trump, but I was just going for kind of strong men that at least were upholding some of the same values as we have, then what happens? And that's, I think, a real question that we need to ask ourselves, because what is going to happen if that happens? And what if Trump isn't allowed to win? Then what is going to happen? Like, are we just going to lay down and just let the whole, you know, thing go up in flames? I think that we need to take a bigger stance in saving ourselves, because I don't think anybody's coming to save us. Even if Trump gets in, it's going to be a big uphill battle to get anything done. You figure the entire Republican Party, I mean, you know, they basically don't want the guy in there. I mean, it was like taking bullets, you know, leading up to the nomination, having them come out and say, okay, I support him and this and that. They're all, you know, they're all controlled by the central bank. So everybody has an APAC guy. This guy told us everybody has an APAC guy. And so they're all getting funded. And then once you're funded, and then they want them to vote a certain way, and I'll ask my APAC guy. We really need to end the Fed. And it's not just us, it's worldwide. And that's one thing I want to get through everybody's, like, I kind of want everyone to understand as well. And I talk about it quite a bit. I think what I'll do is I'll play my video. And this is how Europe fell to the central banking cartel without a shot, which without a shot is a real relative term, because I'm sure that there were assassinations and everything else. I'm positive of it. It's just a short video. I recorded this. I was in Europe. I was in Paris, and I recorded it very short. And it tells how the central banking cartel took over Europe. I was there before the euro. Okay. And it just talks about how Europe was conquered with the currency. And now the same central banking cartel that owns us with the Federal Reserve, which is privately held central bank that issues all the currency, that's their US dollar. It's not your and I's US dollar. And that's why there's all those symbolisms and everything all over it. I'm going to share this real quick. You might have seen this on X yesterday. I posted it under Elon Musk's post. Let me pay it here. I said it's important to understand how Europeans became slaves and who rules them. How the central banking cartel conquered Europe. And this is a video from April 2024. The same central banking cartel rules the U.S. Everything you see in Europe is planned for here. And that's why I want to play this because, and I'm going to pull it right back on the screen in a minute. But the important part about this is that the days of just shrugging and being like, well, it's happening in the UK, or in the UK, well, it's happening in the US, or if you're in Germany or other parts of Europe, oh, well, it's happening over there. Those days are over. They've been over for a long time, but now it should be starting to become clear, especially as you realize who's actually ruling you, who's actually in control. See, because in the US here, we don't have control. Like, we can elect guys like this. He's like one of the only ones actually fighting, Thomas Massey. And we can elect guys like Rand Paul and Matt Gaetz and stuff like that, right? Very few people, maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I mean, you know, there's like what, hundreds of people, 100 people in the Senate, 400 and something in this House. And they're all bought off and they're not working for us. They're working for the central bank. They're working for the central bank. So it's the same central banking cartel that's in control of Europe that is in control of the US. So we're actually all fighting the same people. They're just so smart that you don't realize it. But that's where I come in. And people like me, I don't know how many of them are there out there, but we're fighting the same people. And I think that it's time now for us really to, I know that it's time for us to really band together, because what if something happens? Are you just going to lay down and fold? Anyway, listen to this. This is how Europe was conquered by the central banking cartel. So I'm back in Paris, here to cover Paris Blockchain Week. Very important event here. Everybody pretty much is going to be here. I am at the museum, the Louvre Museum, or Museum des Louvre, as they call it here in France. You know, one of the things I've been talking about over all these years that we have been friends and I've been broadcasting is the monetary revolution and how important it is. What I wanted to touch on is, of course, I'll cover a lot of things over the next few days. I'll talk to a lot of people and bring you a lot of very interesting projects and technology and everything else. But the underlying message that I always have is the monetary revolution. And it's very interesting. And one of the ways that I understand really so much about the monetary revolution is what I saw happen in Europe. So I was lucky enough to start traveling a few decades ago, before the euro was enacted. Before they started doing the euro, I was traveling around Europe, very, very cheap, very wonderful, still very beautiful. I mean, it's unbelievable here. You can just see behind me. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But the central banking cartel was able to conquer all of Europe without firing a shot. Now, how did they do that? How did they pull that off? It was very simple. And understanding this and seeing it happen is really important. It's something I want you guys to understand as well. I know many of you probably do. They did it with the currency. It was very simple. So they said, come on to our currency. Come on to our currency. We'll give you free money. We'll finance the things that you want to finance. Is really the same way as well. The U.S. got on the Federal Reserve System. We were having issues there, and the central bank said, no problem. We'll bail you out. We'll give you all the money that you need. Okay. And then in the dark of night, they passed the Federal Reserve Act, which now we have a privately held central bank. But back to Europe and what happened here and what I witnessed happened here. It was the slow boil like we experience all over the world, right? These people operate in decades and centuries. It's very interesting, really, how how many decades and whatnot that it takes sometimes. I guess though I was fairly quick, but they started, okay, we'll give you free money. We will finance what you want. Just come on to the euro. Come on to the euro system. And this euro, of course, is paper money, right? They can print whatever they want of it. And remember, the central bank doesn't produce anything other than paper money. I mean, obviously they make the monetary policy, interest rates, stuff like this. There's some market making that goes on there. But overall, it's not like they're producing anything really that makes money. It's like the government. The government really doesn't make money. They're not good at making money. So when the central bank says that they're going to pay for stuff, all they're doing is diluting you in order to pay for it. So they'll print up more money. They'll pay for whatever you want. They'll pay for their enormous salaries, as well as everything else that they do. They'll pay for all types of wars and government spending and everything like that. But all they're doing is taking it from you. There's no real value there. And then once that they have the people on the dole, they're able to then put people in power and, of course, influence policy, right? So now you have a situation where everybody's beholden to the central bank. You have pretty much all of Europe on this euro system, and now they have a new government. And what is that new government? Of course, they have a parliament and they have blah, 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 and everything else, but the new government is the central bank. That's who is in charge, and that was how they were able to take over the entirety of Europe, and they did it by stealing the people's money slowly. They stole it slowly, so it wasn't so obvious for everybody. And at first it was so nice, and they had, this and that and the other. But now you go to Europe, it's much more expensive. And they're doing the same thing that we do. They just print up more and more money. And when they print up more and more money, that, of course, dilutes your holdings and makes you worth less. And that's the way it works. It's the biggest scam in the world. They've done it very successfully over almost all of these countries. Russia still doesn't use a central bank. And as well, we have Syria that doesn't use a central bank. Gaddafi tried it. They killed him. But yeah, pretty interesting. And that's how Europe fell without a shot. There is a central government, obviously, now in Europe. You have the European Union. And they are in charge. They're in charge of all of these countries. And the central bank, the European central bank, is in charge of them. And that is the same central banking cartels that runs the country in the United States and Brazil and all the other countries of the world. It was a big scam. We have to stop it. We can stop it. It's not going to be easy. But we'll talk about it more on the show tomorrow, on the Impact Money Show. We're going to bring you a lot of great interviews. We're super excited about it, here to be at Paris Blockchain Week. Back in Paris, beautiful Paris. I mean, absolutely, is just unbelievable place. Paris is so beautiful. See you soon. So there you have it. It's a quick explanation, but I think it's an important explanation to the situation we're in. And everybody always thinks of, like, you have the government and then you have the banks, and it's like different, but it's not. The banks are actually controlling everything. The banks. What is the new government of Europe? Well, that new government of Europe spawned with the takeover of the currency. Why? Because they could pay for anything that they want. Why? Okay, and how did they get on the system? We'll pay for everything you want. It was the same thing that they told Woodrow Wilson. Don't worry about anything. We'll pay for everything. You'll never default on any debts. It'll all be taken care of. Don't worry. We have it handled. Let us have the money. Let us produce the money. Now, of course, later in the U.S., they had to confiscate all the gold, but they were able to. Roosevelt helped them. With the executive order, they confiscated everybody's gold in 1933. They don't teach you this in school. They don't talk about it. They confiscated all of your family's gold. $10,000. There was a $10,000 fee if you didn't turn in your gold, which is the equivalent of about $1 million right now. That's how much they've inflated the money. They've diluted the money supply. So they gave $25 per ounce. And then after they confiscated it all, they started selling it for $35 an ounce. That was but it was illegal for you to own it. It was illegal for Americans to own gold. Yeah, nobody talks about this stuff. Until the early 1970s, it was illegal to own gold. These people, they have all of your gold sitting in New York. What's left of it, which is probably most of it, I would say. Who knows? But it's probably sitting there at the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. They have your gold. I want it back. I don't know about you. I want it back. But these are the families who own the Federal Reserve. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Warburgs, Goldman Sachs, Lehman, Kuhn Loeb, Lazard, Israel, Moses, Schiff, and Stillman. These are the families that own the Federal Reserve. That's the central banking cartel for the U.S. I'm not as familiar with all the families for the European central banking cartel, but I'm sure it's the same ones, plus or minus this one or that one. Well, we have to get ourselves out of the system, or else we won't be free. And even if we get Trump in, is he going to be able to end the Fed? Probably not. Ending the Fed is going to have to come from the people. I don't think one man's going to be able to do it. It'll have to come from the people. Now, if we have a big movement to end the Fed that's backed by the people, then I think we can get some stuff done. I know. I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So the markets are they are moving around here ahead of these PPI numbers. We had a dip on Bitcoin and popping back up. Of course, Polka Gold, one of my favorite holds, there is doing well through this, as well as Dalgo. Dalgo, fun meme coin that is theirs, right? Dalgo.tech. Dalgo.tech. Let me just share this tab here. So one of the reasons why I like Polka Gold and Dalgo is because they have the locked liquidity. Okay. So this is their meme coin, Dalgo. Dalgo.tech is the website. Okay. The meme frog with savvy business. What they did was they took, and the website for Polka Gold, polkagold.tech, both are .tech. What they did was they took 10%, over 10% of the total supply of Polka Gold, and they locked it in liquidity pools, basically burned forever for Dalgo. And that's that meme coin. And so these assets, as the markets go up, should go up considerably because they have the locked liquidity. And that's why I'm so bullish on these. It's P Gold. They trade as P Gold, and it trades as Dalgo, DALGO, kind of like Rango, but Dalgo. So these ones are both holding up very nicely during this time. When the market goes back up, I expect them to. What happens is when you have these different assets. So if your trading pair is Algorand or your trading pair is Bitcoin or whatever it is, so as Bitcoin goes up, if you go up as well and that's your trading pair, then you go up usually more than Bitcoin. Now it's the same way on the way down usually. So if you go down and then people are trading out of your pairing into Bitcoin or into Algorand or whatever your trading pair is, you can go down further than that other trading pair. So it's an interesting play. The altcoins are a very interesting play. Another one that's been holding up pretty well in this whole thing, of course, is the Ton coin, right? We have the Ton coin. Let me just pull up here what I have. How is Ton doing today? Now, ahead of these PPI numbers, of course, we do have quite a bit of movement here. Bitcoin on my chart anyway, on mine, down about a 1.5%. ahead of this movement. And then you have Toncoin. See, yeah, it had moved down considerably in the last 24 hours, a bit more than Bitcoin, which is exactly how I said that happens a lot of times. One of the other ones that, of course, I like is, of course, the dog or flower, dollar or dog or flower. It's one fun meme coin on the Ton ecosystem that I have been holding and doing a lot with. So anyway, that stuff's pretty interesting. Look, guys, the central banking cartel scam is going to end. I don't know when. It will end. The paper money that you use with all those symbolisms and everything else, it will be worth nothing when that happens. And that's for a reason, because they have all the gold. They have it all. They took it all from you. They gave you paper. You can't leave it for, like, if you have, $20 million and it's in US dollars and you leave it to your kids and this whole thing goes kaboom, bankrupt, how in the world is it not going to at a certain point? You get nothing. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of crypto, of metal. Get yourself some gold, get yourself some silver, join the club at costmetals.com. Go to @costmetals.com. Use the referral code clubs with an S. Okay. Clubs. Here we go. Join, buy some gold, buy some silver at dealer cost. At costmetals.club will take you there. That's not the one I wanted, though. Here we go. Sometimes it's a little tricky. At costmetals.com is the main site. Use the referral code clubs with an S to join. Get yourself some gold. Get yourself some silver. As this thing collapses, as the dollars collapses, as this fake money scam collapses, these assets are going to go up because there's limited supply of these things. And it's so you want to have different digital assets. You want to have gold and silver. You want to protect yourself. You want to protect what you have. Okay, not financial advice, highly speculative assets, all that stuff I'm supposed to say. Anyway, great show today, guys. It is always a pleasure. I will be back on TV in about 5 hours. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.